Hey everyone, welcome to part 50 of my Pokemon game series in Unity. So I can't believe we are in part 50 already. I just want to say a huge thanks to everyone who supported me in this journey. I couldn't have done this without your support. So in this video, we will refactor our party screen script so that it can be used from other areas other than battle system. So we'll make the party screen code reusable and we'll look at how to use the party screen when the player selects Pokemon from the menu like this. Okay, and in the future we'll have to use the party screen from the inventory system also, so it's really important to write its code in a reusable way. So we'll do that in this video, and we'll also fix an issue that we have right now while switching the Pokemon. Special thanks to all my Patreons for making the series possible. By becoming a Patreon, you can support me in the making of the series and get access to some cool rewards like the complete project files of the series, which also contains some advanced features that are not covered here. So let's start the video. So first, let's look at an issue that we currently have while switching a fainted Pokemon. So this is a weird issue that only happens in a particular case. So to recreate this issue, first we have to go to the party screen and then go back to the action selection. And now if my player Pokemon faints, then we'll be able to recreate that issue. So my Pokemon fainted and we have to choose another Pokemon to continue. So now if I choose Charmander, you can see we have this weird issue. From the we were supposed to go to the action selection state, but instead the enemy performed its move, right? And now if we continue the battle, we can see a lot of weird stuff happening. So this issue will completely break our battle. So let's look at the code to understand what's causing this issue. So from our battle system, we can go to the party screen from three different states, right? We can go to party screen from the action selection, and then we can also go if our current Pokemon faints, and finally we can go from the about to use state when the trainer Pokemon faints, right? So if we search for the open party screen function, you can see that we are calling it from three different places, and then we are using a variable called previous state to store the state from which the party screen was called, right? And based on that, we are performing different actions when a Pokemon is selected. So if I go to the handle party selection function, here you can see that once a Pokemon is selected from the party screen, we are doing different actions based on the previous state. So if the previous state was action selection, which means the player chose to switch Pokemon during his turn, then we are calling run turns and passing the switch Pokemon action, right? Basically, we are just running it as a turn instead of switching the Pokemon directly. So the point is, from the party screen, we are using the previous state to determine what to do. So now if we look at the places where open party screen is called, you can see that from the about to use state, we are setting the previous state, and then from the battle over state, we are not actually setting it, right? We should have set the previous state from here, but we are not actually doing it. And finally, from the action selection, we are doing it. So we missed to set the previous state when our current Pokemon faints. So we can set the previous state from here to solve the issue. But right now our code is a bit messy. When you get a weird issue like this that's hard to recreate, that's an indication that you must clean up your code. So the previous state is something that we only use from the party screen. So instead of setting it from multiple places, let's actually set it when we open the party screen, and we should reset it when we close the party screen. All right. So the previous state should only be set from these two places, when we open the party screen and when we close the party screen. Okay. So instead of calling it every time before we call open party screen function, we can move this inside our open party screen function. So inside the open party screen, I'll set previous state equal to state. Okay. So now we can remove the other places from where we are setting it. So I don't want to set it from here, and I also don't want to set it from here. Okay. So next, let's also clean up the places from which we are resetting it. So right now we are resetting it from switch Pokemon, and then we are resetting it from here. We're doing it from multiple places, right? So instead, I only want to reset it when the party screen is closed. Okay. So when is the party screen closed? So it's closed whenever we select a Pokemon or whenever we go back from the party screen, right? So when we press Z or the X key, the party screen will be closed. So we have to reset it from both these if conditions. So instead of resetting it from here, I'll actually move this outside so that whenever we press Z, it'll be reset. Okay, let's also do the same when the X is pressed. So now the problem is when we reset it from here, then we won't be able to use it from the switch Pokemon. Okay, the reason why we were resetting it from here is because we wanted to use it from the switch Pokemon coroutine. But the thing is, now I don't want to use it from outside the party screen, right? We should only use it from the party screen. But when we switch the Pokemon, we need it to determine whether we should send out the next trainer Pokemon or not. So what I'll do is, instead of using the prev state, I'll pass a boolean parameter to the switch Pokemon function. So this boolean will be called is trainer about to use, and by default I'll set it to false. Okay, and if that boolean is true, then we have to send out the trainer Pokemon, and otherwise we can just set the state back to running turn. Okay, so this logic is pretty same as this. The only thing is, instead of using the previous state, we are just using a boolean. Okay, so let's remove this logic from here. So now the previous state is not used outside the party screen. So now when we call this from the party screen, we also have to pass that boolean value. Okay, so first let's get that boolean. Okay, so this will be true if the previous state is about to use, right? So from here we can just pass it as the second parameter. So now our code is much more clean. The previous state variable is only used and set from inside the party screen. So now the one thing that I don't like is the name of the state, right? It's called previous state, but its only purpose is to find the previous state from which the party screen was called, right? We can't use this from other states other than the party screen. So the problem is if we name it as previous state and keep it in the battle system script, we might use it in some other state by mistake and that'll cause a bug. So what I'll do is I'll move this into the party screen script itself. Okay, so I'll move this here and I'll make this a property so that it can be accessed from battle system, and I'll name this as called from. Okay, since it represents the state from which the party screen was called. So we can add a comment here since we'll know the use of this when we look at the code later. So I'll add a comment like this, and let me just minimize the summary. So now in the battle system, we'll have lots of errors since we are still trying to use the previous state variable. So let's change all the places where this variable is used. So I'll change it to party screen dot called from. Okay. So let me also do it in the other places. All right. Okay, so now all the errors gone. And I think right now the script is even more readable, right? Like before we switch a Pokemon, we are checking if the party screen was called from the action selection. And we can read this as party screen dot called from action selection. So after changing the name, it's really indicative of what we are doing. Okay, so we are done with all the cleanup. So now let's go to Unity and check if this issue is fixed. All right, I'll start a battle and I'll open the party screen and then go back to action selection, and then I'll fight until my Pokemon faints. Okay, so now if I choose a new Pokemon, we don't have that issue anymore. We are going back to the action selection state just as we want. Okay, and now we can continue the battle and there are no issues. Alright, and I can even try switching the Pokemon directly to check if there is any issue with that. Okay, so even that works without any issue. So since we did a lot of refactoring, you can go ahead and test things like the about to use state by starting a battle with a trainer. But I'm not going to do that since I've already tested that before and I know it'll work. So next, let's make the party screen reusable from other places. So we should be able to open the party screen from here, and in the future we'll also need to open the party screen for using an item. So let's actually make the party screen code reusable from other areas. So right now in our party screen, we don't have the code to select the members in the scene, right? It's actually inside the battle system itself. Okay, so this is a function used for party screen selection. So the thing is, if we want to make the party screen reusable, then we'll have to put all this code inside the party screen script itself. Okay, If we don't do that, then we'll have to rewrite this code in all the scripts from which we use the party screen. So we don't want to do that. So let's move this function into our party screen script. Okay. So I'll make this public and I'll call this handle update. We don't want to name it as handle party selection since we are using it inside the party screen itself. So now we have lots of errors. Let's fix them one by one. So the first thing is I only want the selection code to be in this function. Okay. So we need the code to select different members using the arrow keys. But inside this function, I don't want the code that says what should happen when the Z or X key is pressed. Okay. The reason is because this action will be different depending upon the place from which we call the party screen. So for example, if we call from the battle system, then we'll have to switch the Pokemon when the Z key is pressed. But if we are calling it from the item screen, then we'll have to use the item on that Pokemon when the Z key is pressed, right? The action will be different based on the area from which we are using the party screen. So what I can do is I can remove all this code, okay, and I can use actions in the parameters and then invoke that. Okay, so first I'll create an action called on selected. So in order to use action, we have to import the system namespace. Okay, and then I'll create an action called on back. So now when the Z key is pressed, I'll invoke the on selected action, and when the X key is pressed, I'll invoke the on back action. So now we can pass different action to this function depending upon the place from which we are using it. Alright, so next let's fix the other errors that we have. So we don't have a variable for the current member. So let me create that. Alright, so now we don't have that error. And by the way, I'll rename this to something like selection, since this doesn't actually store the current member, but it stores the index of the current member, right? So I think a name like selection will be better for this. All right, so next, since we are calling this from the party screen script itself, we don't have to use party screen dot here. We can directly call this method. Okay, and similarly, we have a list of Pokemons here, so we can use that directly. So now let's go ahead and call this from the battle system. So in here, inside this function, I don't need any of this code, and instead I'll call party screen dot handle update. Okay, so we have to pass the on selected and on back action. So first I'll create an action called on selected. Okay, so what should we do when a Pokemon is selected? We can just use this code, right? So I'll copy all the code inside this if condition and I'll paste it here. Okay, so next let's define the on back action, and inside this I'll put the code of the X key press. Okay, so now we can pass both on selected and on back actions to the handle update function. Okay, and we can remove this to if conditions. So yeah, instead of putting all the logic inside the battle system, we move a lot of logic into the party screen script. Okay, so now in the battle system, we can remove this variable that points to the current member, and when we do that, we'll get errors since there are places in which we are using it. So instead of this variable, we have to use the selection variable inside party screen, right? So this variable is always used to find out the selected Pokemon. So what I'll do is I'll create a property to return the selected Pokemon at this index. Okay, so let me do that. So I'll call this something like selected member, and I'll return the Pokemon at the index of the current selection. Okay, so now from here, instead of getting the selected member like this, I'll just call player party. Wait, I have to call party screen dot selected member. Okay, so we have one more place where we are using this. So here also let's change that. All right, so now our party screen should be reusable from different areas, and it shouldn't break the current implementation in the battle system. So since we have already changed the selection code, let's actually do some more minor optimizations before we test this. So right now we are calling the update member selection function in every handle update, but we should only call this if there is a change in the selection, right? So I'll store the previous selection in a variable, and I'll only call this function if the selection is not equal to the previous selection. Okay, so now this will only be called if we make a change in the selection. So if we do it like this, then we also have to make sure to call this initially when the party screen is loaded first. So I'll also call this function from inside set party data. So yeah, just a small optimization to improve the performance. And I want to do one more thing before we test. So if we look at the update selection code, and if we go inside the set selected function, you can see that here we are still using highlighted color from a serialized variable. Okay, but in the previous video we added that as a global settings so that it can be same in all the UI. So I'll just remove this variable, and instead I'll use the highlighted color from the global settings. So let's go to Unity and test if the battle system works as usual. Okay, all right. So if I go to the party screen, it's working just like before. And let me also try switching a Pokemon. Okay. So yeah, the party screen is working just like before. But now we have cleaned up the script so that it can be reused from other areas. So next, let's go ahead and open the party screen when we select Pokemons from the menu. Okay, so right now the party screen is inside the battle system game object. So we also want to add one under the UI canvas. Okay, we don't want to switch to the battle camera in order to access it. Instead, we can just place it inside our main UI canvas itself. So what I'll do is first I'll turn this into a prefab. Okay, oops, I have to open the essential objects prefab in order to turn the party screen into a prefab. So yeah, now the party screen is a prefab and we can add it to other places. So let's add it under the UI canvas. Okay, so yeah, it's here and we want it to be disabled by default, and it should be enabled when the player selects Pokemon from the menu. So let's go to our game controller script, and this is where we have the code for what should happen when a menu item is selected. So when the Pokemon is selected, we have to open the party screen, right? So first we need a reference to the party screen. So I'll add a serialize field for that. Okay, and let me actually create a state for the party screen. And now inside the start, we can call party screen dot init in order to initialize it. Okay, so the party screen has an init function that is used to get the UI slots in it. So we can call that from the start function of game controller. So next, when the Pokemon is selected from the menu, we can activate the party screen. So I'll say party screen dot game object dot set active true. Okay, and then we can set the data of the party screen so that every time we open, if there's a change in the current Pokemon's list, then it will be updated. So I'll call party screen dot set data. It's called set party data, and I'll pass the list of Pokemons which we can get from player controller dot get component of party. Okay, and inside the party we have a list of Pokemons. And finally, we'll set the state to game state dot party screen. And by the way, right now at the end of the on menu selected function, we are setting the state back to free roam. But now we can't do that. If the user selected Pokemon, then we have to go to the party screen state, right? So let's move this line and place it inside the save and load conditions. Okay, so now if the Pokemon is selected from menu, we are opening the party screen and then we are setting the state to party screen. Okay, so next in the update, if the state is equal to party screen, then we'll call party screen dot handle update. Okay, so remember, to the handle update we have to pass the on selected and on back action. So let me first define the on selected action. Okay, in order to use action, we have to import the system namespace. So what should happen when the player selects a Pokemon from here? We can actually open a summary screen for that Pokemon, right? And show all the details of that Pokemon. But we don't have a summary screen yet. So I'll just add a comment here. And next, let's define the on back action. So in the on back action, we can just close the party screen. So I'll say party screen dot game object dot set active false. So yeah, first we have to deactivate the party screen, and then we can set the state back to free roam. Okay, so now we can pass the on selected and on back actions to the handle update function. So yeah, I think that's all we need. So let's go to Unity and test if we are able to open the party screen from the menu. Okay, so if I open the menu and select Pokemon, nothing happens. So let's check if we have any error in the console. So yeah, we have a null reference error here. So that's because we forgot to assign the party screen from the inspector. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'll go inside the essential objects prefab, and if I select the game controller, here I have the party screen. So let me assign the party screen from the UI canvas. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. So now we don't have that error in the console. And if we open the menu and select Pokemon, yeah, we are able to open the party screen. Okay, and the selection in the party screen also works. And if I press X, we will go back to the free roam state and we can move as usual. So now we have made our party screen reusable, and we are reusing it from the main gameplay scene and also from the battle system. So I'll stop the video here, and in the next video we'll start the implementation of the inventory system. So before you leave, please make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. That'll really help me out. So I'll see you in the next video.